The views expressed on the Warren and Bradley Show are not necessarily those held by the hosts, Warren and Bradley, nor those of the proprietors of the website, warrenandbradley.com.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire!
Let's make some magic.
It is magic time. Hello, and welcome once again to the Warren and Bradley Show. I am one of your hosts, Bradley Victor.
Another host, Warren Van.
Episode 82 of the Warren and Bradley Show. We're now into summer in beautiful Bellingham, Washington. It's been raining the last week or so, ever since...
Was today the first day, or was yesterday?
Wasn't it like the 21st or something?
Somebody was... I usually think it's like the 21st. Somebody said it was the 22nd this time, so...
Oh, was it?
Maybe it is the 21st, so
maybe
it makes
the solstice up today or something, or moved back a day? I don't know.
Well, the calendar moves.
I don't know.
Yeah,
but yeah, we had the longest day of the year recently. It's still... Technically, it's summer now, but the weather in the
we've
Pacific
discussed on the
Northwest-
podcast before that it's not... The sun doesn't come out till after July
No.
4th. So it's... overcast and drizzling right now,
Yeah.
and the forecast, the extended 5-day forecast, is all rain.
Rain every day
Yeah.
for a week or so. What was it, Thursday or Friday? I think it was Thursday. I was working, and it rained so hard and so long all that day. I was further down south. I don't know what it was doing up here in Bellingham. But
I know it did one day here. Yeah.
yeah, I got... During the winter, I carry rain gear with me in my vehicle, just in case it's a safe bet that it's going to be raining when I'm working. But I had taken the rain gear out of my vehicle, and even though I guess I had looked at the weather forecast and saw rain, I had assumed it would just be kind of the drizzly rain that we normally have.
It was weird hard rain.
It was very hard rain, and I was working, got so wet to the point of absurdity. You know, where... You know, you can be out in the rain and...
Soaked, right?
Well, normally, most people, I guess, if they get caught in a rain shower or something, they're on their way to go do something.
Yeah.
They're not actually spending an extended amount of time outside. And so, you get a little damp, whatever, people complain. Then you get inside, you dry off. I was out there working, had no rain gear. I had I was wearing a t-shirt and then a hooded sweatshirt over the t-shirt.
Yeah.
I had some weird floppy hat that I wear to keep the sun out of my eyes when I'm working. And it was raining so hard and so steadily that it got to the point of the sweatshirt totally soaked, undershirt under the sweatshirt totally soaked, and then rivulets of water. It had the saturation of my clothing had reached such a point that it was just running down my bare skin as I was working. Underwear completely soaked, and then riding up all over in weird places and wedging into areas that I don't want it to wedge into. I guess there aren't any really areas that I would like it to wedge into.
The areas you want to discuss that you have that the rest of us don't?
Wearing rubber boots, and my pants got so wet that water was just soaking and running down in rivulets down my legs and filling my boots up while I was working. It was ridiculous. And it was probably 50 degrees maybe, which doesn't seem that cold, but when you're soaking wet and it's
pretty cold.
It's really fucking cold.
Well, I know I have that problem. It'll rain, and I'll be like, oh, rain, I better put on my raincoat.
Yeah.
And I'll put it on, and all it does is collect all the water on the raincoat and then pour it off like a hose all over my pants.
Right.
And so it's like if I just walked in that rain,
it would just kind of lightly soak in.
I'd be a little damp everywhere. Instead, my pants are completely soaked.
You can't do the raincoat without the rain pants.
No, you can't.
But if you wear rain pants, you look like a douchebag.
Yeah, you look like what do you are you some park ranger or something?
And you see those middle-aged dudes who are out walking their dog or something, and they've got full
and an umbrella and a hat and
sou'wester rain gear as though they're going to work on a crab boat or something. You're like, come on, buddy. What are you doing?
And the other problem is I know I have waterproof shoes that I wear sometimes. Mm-hmm. And it is true that once you get water in there, it doesn't go out as easily as a conventional shoe. So it's actually much worse. If you have sweating feet, particularly, as we talked about last episode, I sweat a lot. My feet, it traps all that moisture in there. I know I used to have waterproof shoes that I was they must be leaking. But then I started to figure out it was just my feet were sweating so much it felt like
because
water
there was
leaking
no
in.
breathability.
No breathability.
The shoe,
so it's just it's pooling in there.
See, I will have to say when I finally, I don't know how. 2 or 3 years ago, I finally bought rain boots.
Yeah.
And I have to say that does make a big difference because if you're just wearing normal, ankle high shoes, even if they're waterproof, you still get all the splashback up onto your lower
Stuff still
calves
jumps
and everything.
up there,
hits
your pants and goes down in there.
The rain boots are good.
The rain boots that are higher, that doesn't happen.
No.
Because it splashes up and just splashes back down,
Exactly.
Yeah. In case people didn't know about rain boots.
Tips for inclement weather on the Ward and Bradley Show.
But it did rain so intensely that day. I know the day you're talking about that I actually got a ride with a girlfriend to work because I was like, I can't walk in this.
Wow.
It's outrageous.
That's a rarity, isn't it?
It happens every once in a while.
Really? Because wintertime, you usually walk to work every day.
I usually walk, but I mean, it doesn't ever rain like that.
Yeah, I guess it gets cold enough.
It was more like it rains in the south or something,
Right.
you know what I mean? Where it just rains all of a sudden really hard.
That's one thing people from the rest of the country need to realize about the Pacific Northwest. There's that weird stereotype that it rains constantly in Seattle and in this area.
It's just cloudy constantly.
Well, if you see movies or anything
it's
where
raining.
it's taking place in Seattle, it's just like this torrential downpour all the time.
Yeah.
Because that's what people think of as rain. Like in L.A., when it rains, it never rains. But when it does, it rains hard.
Yeah.
And in Florida, it rains like a fucking bat. Like most places, it rains hard. Here, it just kind of barely pisses down, little trickle.
It's kind of
mist.
like off and on constantly raining for 9 months.
Basically, it's always raining. There's just always moisture in the air, but it's not hard rain usually.
That's unusual. We don't get that stuff very often.
So actually, our accumulations are lower than a lot of places, but the days on which it rains are much higher.
Well, it's interesting because I was watching Jeopardy
yes.
the other day, which I've taken a shine to recently. And
is Alex Trebek still on there? I heard
yeah,
he's
Alex
retiring.
Trebek, no, he's on there. He must be so rich. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Him and Pat Sajak and Vanna White all still doing that job.
I thought he was going to retire. I heard he was
He
retiring.
must at some point. He's been doing it forever. But they had a category on there about average rainfall in cities.
Uh-huh.
And they did, Portland and stuff, and they did some other cities. And all the other cities had a higher average rainfall than us. The cities that no one associates with rain, cities that people actually associate with being dry, some of them actually have a higher rainfall total for the entire year than us.
It just happens in 2 days.
The thing is they have sun during the other days too.
Exactly.
That's which makes a big difference. There isn't I don't think you go a lot of other places. It's not gray for like a month straight.
No.
Other places. That's the thing.
Well, we had that record of I can't remember how many days it was in a row without the sun ever appearing. Yeah, that's cool.
I know you like because you're a vampire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, a whole segment on weather, rain.
We haven't done that for a while. We usually talk about the weather a lot.
And isn't that considered like in the old courtesy books and things like that, you're not supposed to talk about the weather, or are you supposed to talk about the weather?
I think you are supposed to talk about the weather.
You are?
You're not supposed to talk about politics and religion.
Right. But weather is something
safe,
innocuous.
Yeah.
But then that has become a cliche for someone who doesn't really have anything to talk about to mention the weather.
I talk about the weather a lot more now that I'm older than I did when I was younger. You know what I mean?
No.
I felt like when I was a kid,
Yeah.
I didn't even pay attention to the weather.
Yeah.
Like I was just like, whatever's out there, I'd just be like, whatever. I just charge into it. And as I've gotten older, it's like I pay more attention. I'm like, oh man, I haven't seen the sun in a month. This is sad. Or it's like, look, it's been sunny for 2 straight days. This is amazing.
I've noticed people, I always notice people remarking on the weather and mentioning the weather, caring about the weather. And I don't really care if it's sunny or not, whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't really faze me. But the fact that my job is very weather dependent means that I am always aware of what the weather is supposed to be doing and what the forecast is going to be.
Well, as a kid, my dad used to watch the Weather Channel a lot. He was really into that, just like seeing what was going on. And anytime, because it doesn't snow here either, anytime there's the promise of some sort of snow, and people are like, oh my God, we're all going to die. We're going to, stock up on bottled water. Who knows if we're going to be able to get through this, because there's going to be a dusting of snow possibly.
Right.
And it would just be nonstop Weather Channel, showing the radar and then cycling through and showing like the current temperature and just like waiting and waiting.
Yeah, I remember. I can remember that too. And it would be, I don't know, twice every half hour they would have the local forecast.
Yeah, like cycle through.
My parents would just watch what the weather was doing in Galveston, Texas. You know, I don't understand that.
But I understand why they do that on like the Today Show and stuff.
Yeah.
Why does Al Roker do a national weather?
Well, because it's a national show. It's
but I know,
syndicated
but how does national weather help you?
Well, yeah.
It's pointless. especially in this day and age when you can find out what the weather in El Paso is going to be just by a click. But you need to like look at this map of the country. It's always like purple and blue up at the top.
Right.
And it's orange and red at the bottom. And he's like, look at that. What do you think of that? And you're like, it's like that every time.
Yeah.
That's not enough specific information for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to be in one place. I'm not going to be like moving about the entire country all day.
Well, and it's funny how variable weather can be locally. I mean, you might have some huge rain system coming in that will cover a lot of ground, but for the most part, it could be raining here and then, 10 miles to the north it's not raining, 10 miles to the south, so
Yeah, especially where we live, where it's like you go a little bit east and suddenly it's snowing.
That's why you look at your fucking smartphone with your location service turned on, and it'll show you exactly what the weather's doing right where you are at that time.
But I think Al Roker, if I recall, don't they be like, and now we'll take a break for a local weather, and then they have like the local guy comes in and actually tells you what's going on in your area?
Well, ostensibly.
So, I mean, they tell you their weird predictions that have no bearing on reality, but that's a strange job.
The weather forecast is still the one thing that has not seemed to improve at all.
It should have, right?
I don't understand, with technology being what it is and supposedly the modeling techniques that we have for weather systems, they still don't know what the fuck they're talking about more than a day in advance. And even a day in advance, they don't really know what the fuck they're talking about. They can do like broad trends where maybe there's a big low pressure or high pressure, maybe the temperature variations and stuff. But I don't know. They have no fucking clue.
Yeah.
It's still just like witch doctors banging some shells together or something. They don't know what the fuck they're doing.
And as a person that spent most of his childhood just trying to get out of going to school or church, just wishing for any sort of like, apocalypse to happen or alien attack or horrible storm that would keep me from having to do these horribly boring things, I spent a lot of time just having weathermen be like, watch out, here comes the blizzard, and then me watching the window the entire night and nothing ever happens.
It is hard when you live in such a mild climate like this because you're never going to very rarely you're going to get school closures for snow or anything. You should have convinced your family to move to like the Gulf Coast or the Northeast or something in the Midwest so you could actually have inclement weather and could fuck with your life a little bit.
But those people they actually go to school on those days.
That's true.
That's the weird thing about us, because just the slightest thing would like set everybody off and there'd be a massive panic throughout the community.
Freak out and light our hair on fire and run around like crazy people.
We had one blizzard like in '96, and it was great.
Well, we didn't this year, but the last few years we would have a couple snow days. Might stay around for a week or so. But no,
we didn't have any this year, right?
No, not really.
Yeah. God damn it!
All right, Weather Watch on the Warren and Bradley Show. Okay, we're just coming back from an extended break. We're having some weird Pro Tools issues as I was trying to record here. I always get a little leery of the computer. I don't totally trust it still. It's kind of like a wild animal that you've tamed and you've sort of taught it to live in your apartment and everything, but every once in a while it just turns and bites you and attacks you. I was having this weird bullshit lately where anytime I would right-click on something, I would get this weird error thing, and this thing would come up and it would be error dash blah 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 blah, like forever and ever and ever, and it didn't seem to do anything. It just kept saying that over and over, and then I spent, I don't know, 6 hours one day trying to track down what this error was and what it meant and how to get rid of it and what was going on. I was like trying to restore my registry and do all this shit. Never found a solution. Kind of just went away after a while. I don't know. We complain about computer things a lot, I think, on this show. I think that's one of our themes.
We've talked about, I know, before about the thing that it just like seems to just do things randomly.
It just
without you doing anything to the machine.
You've changed nothing. You've changed no settings. You've done nothing weird, nothing aberrant at all, and suddenly it just goes
and starts doing something different.
Yeah, and just decides to be an asshole.
Yeah.
Drives me crazy.
It drives me crazy. You ever use Apple computer?
Not much. I use an iPhone. I have other Apple products, but never the actual Apple PC.
You ever try to like cut and paste or copy and paste on there?
No.
You have to do some like keyboard command to do it.
Was it the Apple key?
I think it's like the Apple key, and then you have to hit like some letter.
You can't. Oh yeah, they only have one mouse button, don't they?
I think so. Yeah.
That you can't right click.
Yeah, maybe that's why they do it that way, huh?
That's weird.
It's like it throws you off if you're trying to like just cut and paste something really fast.
I don't. I mean, I guess I do end up using a lot of keyboard shortcuts when I'm a little more familiar with the program. Like with Pro Tools, I use keyboard shortcuts all the time. But for the most part, I like not using the keyboard as much as possible. And it seems kind of counterintuitive because Apple operating systems are supposed to be all about intuitive user interface and ease of use and blah blah blah. It seems weird and kind of clunky
that you'd have to use the
keyboard key.
Yeah. I know with my computer situation right now, I have an old shitty PC that I use at home.
Like that weird little laptop thing?
Yeah, like the cheapest laptop on the market. It's a few years old.
Yeah.
It can barely do anything anymore. It's just grinding to a halt constantly. And so I'm like, I guess I got to get a new one. And the one I have at work is older than the one I have at home.
Right.
And you get used to it after a while, right? Mm-hmm. You get nerd to this fact that everything takes for a long time. And then someone comes over and is like, "Oh, I got to do something on your computer." And they're like, "What's wrong with your computer? Why is your computer? Why can't you do anything on your computer? Why is it so slow?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's the way it is." Yeah. And somebody tried to use the mouse on my computer and the mouse barely works. And they're like, "This mouse doesn't work." I'm like, "Yeah, I guess that's what I'm used to."
See, I'm kind of the opposite, though, because no matter how much I upgrade, I got the new iPhone 5 when it came out, and compared to my iPhone 4, it was way, way faster, and I was pleased by that, but I'm still irritated that things aren't completely instantaneous at all times. And my computer is a fairly decent computer. I've upgraded it throughout. I've had it, 2 or 3 years, and I've upgraded it and stuff. And it's fine. It does what I need it to do, but I'm still just like, everything must be instant. As soon as I think the thing, it has to happen. And we're still not there yet.
So you get frustrated?
Yeah.
They're pounding on the keyboard?
No, because that doesn't really help. But yeah, I understand what you mean about getting used to it, but I have no patience for technology. I get really, why isn't this work yet? How long have we had personal computers? How long is the promise?
Oh, well, the problem is we keep making things
we keep
more
upping
elaborate.
The ante. Yeah, I know.
So it can just barely handle things. Like if you take my computer back to 1994 and plug that sucker in, people are like, "This thing's blowing everybody away."
Oh, that's true.
But now it's like it can barely handle anything.
Yeah.
Spotify, it's just like, whoa, slow down, buddy. And if you want to do anything else, like sometimes I'm just like, the browser it just sits there and won't do anything for a while. And I'm like, what are we gonna do?
Do you do maintenance on your computer?
No.
Yeah, you might need to do a little cleanup on there.
Yeah.
I have maintenance routines that run on my computer.
I feel like I should probably just get a newer one.
Probably. All right, what are you thinking of? Are you thinking of switching to Mac? Is that why you brought that up?
No, I don't think I'll do that. No, it seems too grandiose and like for rich people.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
They're a little overpriced, I think.
I think if I was like a computer guy and I was like, "Oh, I want one of these Macs because they're fancy." But it's like, I don't need anything like that. I don't do anything fancy on my computer.
Just play solitaire.
I just need the shitty computer that like I can watch Netflix on.
Yeah.
And that I can listen to Spotify on. Yeah,
I need a little bit more power under my PC's hood because I do a lot of like audio editing and things like that. So.
Oh, that reminds me. I was listening to something on NPR the other day, and they were talking about some game fair. They're showing like children's like toys and stuff, and they're talking about blocks. About how all the things you can do with blocks and how Frank Lloyd Wright grew up with blocks and I learned all these things. And they're like, and now it's moved into the future. Now children play Minecraft. Yeah. It's a block game too.
It is, basically.
And I was like, oh, is it? So it's like you're playing with blocks?
Everything is a 1 meter by 1 meter square within the game world. Yeah.
So it is kind of like just playing with blocks. Yeah.
It taps very much into I don't want to say primitive, but the mentality I had as a youngster playing with Legos, I remember, did you go to the same kindergarten as me?
No.
Yeah, you didn't come till first grade. We had all these old milk cartons covered in a like paper brick design.
Yeah.
Just had hundreds of them in our kindergarten.
Like that, yeah.
And that was just for hours at a time you could stack those motherfuckers. And there's this weird, peaceful, kind of strange, meditative state you get into when you're doing something like that. Yeah. And that's what Minecraft brings back to me, is that kind of
that makes
simplicity.
Sense. Yeah. I was thinking about it. I was like, I could play with some blocks.
Yeah.
If like I had a bunch of like Legos, so like a ton of Legos, and you're like do use these for a day, I'd be like, oh, that's great. And I can build all sorts of things with Legos, and I think I'd be content and happy the entire time.
Yeah, I think you would.
Yeah, isn't that weird? I know somebody I was talking to the other day, I think my girlfriend was saying one of her friends was busy working on a puzzle that day when she talked to her, and I was like, a puzzle?
I haven't done a puzzle in quite some time.
Well, every time I do a puzzle, I'm like, this is fun.
Yeah.
And I sit down, I put the puzzle together and stuff.
We do seem to have that innate urge to create order out of chaos, So well,
it's satisfying.
It is. You take something that's this jumble of pieces, all these weird edges, strange images that aren't connected, and you take that and you form it into a picture of a beautiful barnyard.
Yes. And all the pieces fit together, and it comes, everything's in its right place.
Except when you're missing one fucking
Yeah,
piece.
I was thinking that makes things awful.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that... I think that's true of lots of things in life, though. If you have, like, a goal and it's like, do this one thing, like put these blocks together in a certain way, or build this puzzle, and you have all the pieces and you do it, and it's fine, and you have a system to do it, I think it's very relaxing.
What drives me crazy is the people who get these puzzles, and they put them together, but they glue them onto backing.
Yeah, I don't... Yeah.
They make them, and then they hang it on the wall.
Yeah.
Like, look at this puzzle. It's like, yeah, it's a picture of a fucking mountain range with a horse in the foreground.
Yeah. Was the puzzle that hard that you're like, it's like you're bragging about it?
I don't
almost?
understand if that's what they're doing, if they're bragging that they put together this like 400-piece puzzle, or it's like, this picture is so beautiful that now I must display it.
Or maybe they think that's what the point of a puzzle is. They're like, it's like a compact way of giving you a poster.
Which is a really difficult way of doing it. You could just buy the picture and put that on your wall.
Yeah.
That's your ultimate end game.
It does feel to me like they're just trying to, like, look at, there was an achievement.
Yeah.
So they're hanging it on the wall. They're like, I took all these pieces, I put them together. We're going to display this. But that's just what do people put on their walls? I mean, we talked about the spoon collection thing last time.
Yeah.
People need to fill their walls with something weird.
I guess. Yeah,
I don't. I like having bare
There's
walls.
like the windmill fetish. We've talked about that. Like weird little cutout, like bric-a-brac and knick-a-knack, weird shit. And it's weird when people decide on the theme. Like, I'm going to only put up cuckoo clocks on my wall. Or I'm going to pick lighthouses, and only things that have a lighthouse in it, whether it be some sort of strange, like, silkscreen velvet. I'm going to put that as long as it has a lighthouse on it. Or if it's some weird wood cutout thing, I'll put that on. I don't know.
Like lighthouses,
I guess. Yeah.
It's strange, but people don't like it on, like, a wall that's just plain and bare.
Yeah.
It's too much to stand.
Yeah, I guess I've got shit on my walls.
Your walls are pretty covered up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still have shit on my walls as though I'm like in college though or something, like posters and shit like that. It's kind of, I realize, I guess my living area, the living room is a little more adult because I have things framed and stuff.
Yes.
For the most part. But
back here in your room here, yeah.
This is where I, take the ladies, hang out, listen to some Led Zeppelin and smoke some pot, look at the posters on the wall.
Such a cool guy.
He's 35.
Oh.
All right, let's do Celebrity Minute.
Celebrity Minute on the Warren and Bradley Show.
All right, top story on Celebrity Minute this week, a sad, tragic story. James Gandolfini, famous actor, most famous for The Sopranos.
Yes.
Tony Soprano's in The Sopranos. Died at the age of 51 on Wednesday.
Yes.
June 19th. He was vacationing in Rome. He was going to attend a film festival in Sicily, actually. And I guess he has a lot of connection with Italy because his parents were both born there. They spoke Italian in the home. And he would visit there to get in touch with his roots. He was staying in a hotel in Rome. He collapsed. His 13-year-old son, Michael, found him collapsed upon the floor.
Oh, no.
Which kind of sucks. And it's unclear as to whether or not he was dead immediately, because I guess they were trying to resuscitate him for a while. And when I was first hearing reports, they were saying that he was still alive until he got to the hospital, but then other people were saying that he was dead, and they were just trying to do chest massage and, everything the entire time.
So he's had a massive coronary and just dropped dead.
Massive coronary, just dropped dead at the age of 51. He's one of those guys, I mean, even in his younger days when he wasn't as large as he was towards the end, he still had that big barrel chest, and they always say that that's kind of an indicator of heart problems
disease
in the future.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty young to just drop
51.
dead.
And I was kind of shocked when I heard all these reports coming out. On Wednesday I was hearing the news. I had assumed he was just in his 60s because he was looking pretty rough towards the end there.
I will say, when I heard the number 51, I was like, that seems pretty low.
Yeah.
Because the show was on in the 90s, right?
The first season was 99,
yeah.
I think.
So he had to be in his 30s when he was
which
Tony
is
Soprano?
weird. And he looked way the fuck older than that. I don't know.
So I was surprised that he was that young.
Yeah. But by all accounts, he was a very pleasant fellow. Everyone who worked with him seemed to have really loved him.
Yeah, he seemed to be a charming guy. He seemed to be very popular.
Yeah, apparently he had a lot of problems playing Tony Soprano because he was such a violent, horrible, angry asshole on the show. And I guess, I don't know, it was just difficult to portray that character all the time. After the series ended and all the other cast members wanted to do more, David Chase and him, the creator of The Sopranos, didn't speak for a long time because I guess it was so contentious, him even playing that role.
Wow.
And he didn't want to have anything to do with it anymore. Obviously now there will be no Sopranos reunion.
Oh, that's the meal ticket for a lot of those people on the show, too. That's it.
Most of those guys had no other career outside the show.
They hit the jackpot for that brief period.
Stevie Van Zandt can always play with the E Street Band whenever he needs to. But, yeah, for the most part.
And Edie Falco can be Nurse Jackie or something.
Yeah, did that get canceled?
I don't know. I never saw it.
But yeah, sad news. They finally have the results of the autopsy. They confirmed that it was a massive heart attack and there were no other substances in his system. His body is being flown back to the U.S. for burial. He leaves behind his wife, Deborah Lynn, and they had just had a daughter recently, too.
Oh, no. Really?
Sucks. She's only 9 months old. So, yeah, that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
So, yeah, sad news. James Gandolfini dead at 51. Next story. I'm sure many of our listeners have heard of the controversy surrounding Paula Deen. I was only vaguely aware of who Paula Deen was.
Me too. Yeah.
I'm not really someone who watches the Food Network at all.
I actually see the Food Network sometimes, and I still don't know who she is.
Well,
really.
She was a 66-year-old Georgia native who I guess had, I don't even know what the fuck her show was called, but it was all about Southern fried comfort food.
Yeah.
She'd be putting slabs of butter on everything, chicken fried steak, grits and shit like that. And your girlfriend had sent me a story earlier in the week about how a former employee of hers was suing. And I read through the story, and there was some strange deposition about these racial slurs that Dean and her brother Bubba had used in the restaurant in which this former employee had worked. And I don't know. When I first read the story, I was like, disgruntled employee, how much weight do we give this kind of testimony? But if we can get, where is this original story?
There's a lot of bad things like swirling around her, though, for years.
Well, yeah,
people have been suspicious of her character for a long time.
She was being sued for $1.2 million by her Savannah restaurant's former general manager, Lisa Jackson, who claimed that the Food Network star made derogatory remarks about African Americans. Jackson alleged that during one conversation, Dean's brother and business partner Bubba Ayers said they should send President Obama to the oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico so he could nigger rig it.
Is that so? You can't sue about that, though, can you?
I don't know.
No, I don't think so.
Well, I think she was suing for.
They created an environment that was
for
like
a hostile work environment or something like that. I guess because of the use of racial epithet. I can never say that word. Epithets. Jesus. She also said that when she was overseeing the catering and staff to Ayers' 2007 wedding, she asked Dean what the server should wear, and Dean allegedly said, "Well, what I would really like is a bunch of little niggers to wear long-sleeve white shirts, black shorts, and bow ties. In the Shirley Temple days, they used to tap dance around. Now that would be a true Southern wedding, wouldn't it? But we can't do that because the media would be on me about that."
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, so I read all these things and was like, okay, I'm assuming the N-word may have been bandied about because they are like kind of
Southerners,
white trashy people from the South, and maybe that's me being prejudiced or stereotyping these people, but it seems like there's still a bit of racism going on down there.
Yeah,
and especially people in their 60s. She grew up when there was still segregation and things.
She was probably hitting protesters with a hose, at some point.
Maybe as a little 8-year-old or whatever. But so I'd read that story, didn't really think much of it. I thought I might bring it up on Celebrity Minute, but then a deposition that came out that I guess was recorded during the case. It was a video deposition that Paula Deen gave. She was answering some of these allegations, and she was asked if she had ever used the dreaded N-word, and she said, yes, of course.
Yes, of course.
And then said that she hadn't used it in a very long time, that she had grown up in a specific time and place, and that word had used to be bandied about, but that she doesn't agree with any sort of discrimination at all. word of this got out. People started going insane. Her lawyer released a statement saying that, of course, Miss Deen does not approve of racial stereotyping, blah, 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 blah. But now she has been dropped from the Food Network. Her QVC line of cookware, I guess, is in question now. QVC is thinking of dropping her. I didn't even know QVC still existed anymore. It's all very strange. She's put out a video apology. And I guess she put out this apology just hours before she was fired from the Food Network. But we're going to
are we going to listen to this?
Grab a little audio from it now.
All right.
I want to apologize to everybody for the wrong that I've done. I want to learn and grow from this. Inappropriate, hurtful language is totally unacceptable. I've made plenty of mistakes along the way, but I beg you, my children, my team, my fans, my partners, I beg for your forgiveness. Please forgive me for the mistakes that I've made.
And from what we've seen so far, it doesn't look like anyone is going to forgive her. I guess she does have some fans who have... this thing's going again. I guess she has some fans that have started some Facebook page. Like 30,000 people have liked the page in support of her.
Well, I think I've seen her get attacked before.
From south of the Mason-Dixie line.
Because of the content of her cooking, too.
Well, I don't. That's something that I don't give a shit about. If someone wants to cook fattening food on the Food Network, nobody has to fucking eat it.
That's true. But that's why I feel like this is all a bunch of stuff that's just been like compounding over the years. Mm-hmm. I think there's been a certain momentum towards like Paula Deen's a creepy weirdo.
Well, yeah.
And it's finally just like snowballed in this giant ball that's like rolling downhill now.
All right. As everyone knows, Kim
the biggest
Kardashian
news of the week
has given birth to her baby daughter. And she named the fucking thing North.
Okay. When I was at my girlfriend's house earlier this week, and we were talking about this, and she's like, "Oh, what are they going to name the baby?" And then she looked on her little phone. She said they named it North, and I was like, "That's a joke. That's a practical joke." And she's like, "No, it's on like TMZ." And I'm like, "I think that's somebody like pulling your chain because nobody would do anything weird. That's something weird to do."
In the months prior to the birth, people were making jokes about them naming the baby North. A lot of people were assuming that perhaps it would have a K name, because that seems to be the ridiculous tradition within the Kardashian clan to name everyone with a K.
Oh, and Kanye too, I guess.
And Kanye as well, so Kim, Kanye, and...
That'd be Knorth.
Knorth, I don't know. But yeah, they named the fucking thing North. No middle name. Can't have anything get in the way of Northwest.
Yeah.
Fucking celebrities.
I have... Okay, there was also some news that came out last week about Kanye West having some affair with some woman he had met on tour and stuff, and she had talked to the media about it, and she said when she had talked to him about the relationship with Kim, he was like, "Oh, that's, that's for the news, I mean, that's for the publicity and stuff, and it serves a certain purpose," which I think is probably true. Do you feel like there's an actual relationship between these people, or is it just two like comic, ridiculous personalities that are really want to be in the media a lot, creating a baby to be in the media more?
Crazy, insane, narcissistic children getting together. I don't know if either of them are capable of actually being in love. I don't think that their narcissism or I don't think they're even able to look outside themselves and be... And to sacrifice, like, a real relationship requires sacrificing yourself to the other person to a certain extent. There's give and take. These two are just insane megalomaniacs, and I don't really see any sort of partnership developing between the two in any sort of real sense.
Yeah, I'm not... Yeah,
other than a business partnership.
Yeah, basically. I think it's probably more of a business partnership.
The story was from the Associated Press. It just goes on to talk about some of the other ridiculous baby names that celebrities have used in the past.
But no, the thing about Northwest is that it's a joke.
It is a fucking joke.
You name your baby a joke?
Well, here's some of the other names that I bitch about on a regular basis. There's Aleph, son of Natalie Portman and Benjamin Millipede, which might have some sort of ethnic quality to it that we're not aware
of. We don't
of.
want to mock it for that reason.
Apple and Moses.
Oh, yeah.
Children of Gwyneth Paltrow and Chris Martin. Banjo Patrick, son of actress Rachel Griffith. Bear Blue, Elisa Silverstone's son. Blue Ivy, daughter of Beyonce and Jay-Z. Buddy Bear Maurice, Petal Blossom Rainbow, Daisy Boo Pamela, and Poppy Honey Rosie, children of Chef Jamie Oliver. I thought he was gay.
Well, maybe that's a arranged situation, too.
Fifi Trixie Bell, daughter of Bob Geldorf. Kingston and Zuma, sons of Gwen Stefani and Gavin Rossdale. Mirabella Bunny, daughter of musician Brian Adams. Moon Unit, Dweezil, Ahmet, and Diva Muffin Zappa, children of Frank Zappa. I mean, he has an excuse. He was like fried out of his brain.
He's a weird dude,
Yeah,
so he should be. If he named his
up.
kids traditional names, it would have been very weird.
Yeah. Moxie Crime Fighter, daughter of comedian Penn Jillette. Pilot Inspector, son of actors Jason Lee and Beth Riesgraf. Prince Michael, Blanket, and Paris, children of Michael Jackson.
I know we're fans of those.
Seven, son of Erica Badu and Andre Benjamin. Now, there was a Seinfeld episode in which George wanted a couple to name their kid Seven.
Yeah.
Or actually, he wanted to keep the name for himself and was very angry when they used the name Seven. I don't know if they got that from that. Shiloh, Maddox, Pax, Sahara, Knox, and Vivienne, children of Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. Vivienne isn't weird. Knox is borderline. Shiloh is the dog's name. Sparrow James Midnight, son of Nicole Richie and Joel Madden. Speck Wildhorse, son of John Mellencamp. And Surrey, daughter of Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes. That's enough said about that. Amanda Bynes in the news again.
Oh, really?
From Us Magazine, Amanda Bynes post-nose surgery, quote, "I consider myself a hero."
Wow, I don't know what you could have done, Amanda.
Amanda Bynes has been giving herself a giant pat on the back via Twitter, raving about the recent decision she made to go through nose surgery. In a few tweets on Wednesday, June 19th, the former All That star was boastful, calling herself a hero for her latest medical procedure. Quote, "I was born with webbing in between my eyes." That was a birth defect that I had surgically removed. I've never been more excited. I consider myself to be a hero to have suffered 27 years with a birth defect and just now have it surgically removed. I had to share my story with you so the media would stop using old photos of me and stop writing lies about me having odd behavior when I was just embarrassed to share the fact that I had a birth defect. So that's the reason now she had webbing between her eyes? What the fuck is webbing between the eyes?
What happened? I mean, did she actually go to a doctor and some doctor remove something from her eyes?
I guess. She also said...
I've seen pictures of her. She doesn't have any webbing between her eyes.
Well, she doesn't now, Warren. She's
okay.
The birth defect was corrected. My doctors are heroes who also correct kids who have cleft lip. Something as traumatic as webbing in between your eyes, she added. I wanted to share my story with you to prove that I'm not crazy. I was just embarrassed. She says she still needs a few more surgeries to have her nose bridge... To shave her nose bridge down.
Is that a birth defect, too?
I guess. Surgery is a complete miracle for me. Nothing could hold you back from living out your dream.
Well, she couldn't even see. She probably had webbing in her eyes, and she was like wandering around, didn't know where she was throwing bongs.
There's surgery for everything that's wrong with you.
We're going to have to open up the old brain case to fix what's wrong with her.
Oh, my Lord. In related news, Nick Cannon, her former co-star in All That, said that he's hoping for the best for the girl he once considered to be like his little sister. In an interview with Howard Stern on Tuesday, June 19th, the America's Got Talent host recalled his days with Bynes on the 1998-2000 set of the Nickelodeon comedy show. To see someone you've seen at 9 running around with a snotty nose, and now to see her like this, it's like, wow, man, that's sad. After the Easy A star arrest on May 23rd, Cannon, 32, said he tried to reach out but was unable to contact her. Bynes, due in court July 18th, doesn't seem to be too concerned with Cannon's or anyone else's missed calls. If you're not hot, I don't value your opinion, the 27-year-old tweeted on June 19th, so stop trying to force me to listen if I show no interest. Wow. I guess that's enough for Celebrity Minute this week. We had some pretty major stories.
Whoa, what was that last story?
Oh, something
You tried to run away from this story?
Yeah,
and I think I like the headline.
Armie Hammer?
Yeah, let's just read this headline at least.
Well, Armie Hammer recently has been opening up about some of his sexual conquests post-marriage and said that one chick tried to stab him while they were having sex.
Post-marriage?
Pre-marriage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
Armie Hammer starring in The Lone Ranger with Johnny Depp.
Okay, is that his real name?
A young hunk. Yes.
Armie Hammer?
He is descended from Armand Hammer.
Oh, he is?
Yes. Oil tycoon Armand Hammer. Yes. Quite the privileged upbringing. But basically, I wasn't going to do the story because there isn't much of a story other than him talking about how sexy he is and how he's tired of having to take his shirt off all the time.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
And that before he was married, he had sex with some chick who said that true love scars and then tried to stab him with a butcher knife.
It's strange the way they've been billing the Lone Ranger movie, though. With the
It looks like it's going to suck.
It looks like it's going to suck, and it's weird to have Tonto be
white.
No, and be the top star in the movie.
Well, yeah.
That's strange, isn't
Apparently,
it?
Johnny Depp went and met with some Native Americans, and they made him an honorary member of the tribe because of the sensitivity he showed in his betrayal.
Oh, you're a real hero, Johnny.
All right, so now that's enough for Celebrity Minute this week on the Warren and Bradley Show.
Okay.
This has been Celebrity Minute on the Warren and Bradley Show. They wander the streets, scavenging for loose change and discarded cigarette butts.
Bear $1.
And give me a motherfucking cigarette.
Ran out of gas ways back. Got me meth.
You smoke weed, don't you?
Good in the car.
I could use some change.
They may be mentally unstable and deserving of our charity, but that doesn't mean they can't be selected as the Warren and Bradley Show Street Freak of the Week.
All right, just a quick little Street Freak of the Week. It's been a few weeks since the Street Freaks have been out and about. We had a story recently, I don't know if we even talked about it on the show, but the Bellingham Police Department did a massive sweep. A drug sweep.
Oh, yeah.
And they'd gone around, a lot around in my neighborhood.
Well, they cleaned up your neighborhood and they cleaned up the neighborhood where I work.
Yes. And
those are the two areas they went.
a lot of homeless people who were wanted for drug crimes, for selling drugs. Basically, I think they arrested over 30 people during this sweep. And then
it was a sophisticated sting operation.
Apparently.
That had been going on for 3 to 4 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they've been building this case against these people for a long time.
Good work to the Bellingham Police Department, but I think that they inadvertently may have robbed me of my Street Freaks of the Week for a while because I wasn't getting anything for a long time. I think
you scared them?
I think they took a lot of these people off the street.
Well, the other thing that, I mean, they took them off the street for that night. And then they let most of them go the next day.
I would assume so, but there's been a dearth of crazy homeless people lately.
Maybe they intimidated them. Maybe they've gone to their holes or something.
I don't know what's going on.
But yeah, they just went around to the junkie motels by my work.
Yeah.
And went to the mentally
the hotels
ill,
where people rent by the hour.
Yeah, and crazy people, and they're like, give me some of that meth, give me some of that heroin, and they're like, okay, and they gave them some. Then they went and they arrested everybody at once and put them in jail, and then apparently let most of them go the next day. And then they all went back to where they were before.
Well, ostensibly, but I haven't really seen them, so I don't know what's going on. But today, I finally, it's a minor street freak, but it's worth mentioning, I guess. I was standing out on my corner, as usual, and in the last few weeks, I've been standing out there in vain because I hadn't been approached by any street freaks at all. And my corner is, I suppose, blanketed is the word? That's not the word. Is shaded by several trees. And what I didn't notice when I first got to my corner was that the trees were infested with aphids. And I was standing under the tree, smoking my cigarette, drinking my coffee, looking in vain for a street freak to walk by, and I kept feeling stuff on me. I was like, oh, what's going on? And I would like brush my neck, at the top of my head. It's like, oh, what's going on here? What's happening? And it was very lightly drizzling too, so I didn't know if it was water droplets or what. And then I finally realized it was aphids. They were just dropping down from the trees and landing all over me. I hate aphids. And so I'm like, brushing around. And again, anyone looking at me from any distance would just see me like twitching around.
You're hanging out in a homeless guy corner, twitching around
and like trying to wipe invisible insects off my skin. Obviously, they can't see the aphids dropping down upon me. And while I was doing this, some street freaks walked up, actually. It was a trio of street freaks, one of whom I had noticed earlier in the day. He was just circling the block over and over. He had a shirt that was much too short for him and a giant distended belly that he kept scratching. And then he would often cup his breasts as he was walking by and go, and shake them back and forth in time to the little song that he was humming. Yeah. And so I had seen him earlier, and I was like, oh, I'm going to have to check up on this guy. And I was glad to see him approaching, actually, because I thought maybe some sort of interaction would occur. But anyway, I was busy with the aphids, just shaking them off, trying to get them off. Yeah. And then something caught my eye. I was looking at one of the R2D2-shaped bollards, which we've discussed in the past, and I noticed a strange insect, the likes of which I had never seen before.
Oh, boy.
And I was intrigued. I actually have a picture I'll show to Warren here. Have you ever seen a bug like that, Warren? We'll post this on warrenandbradley.com. Have you ever seen
No,
that?
I don't think so.
It's fucking weird.
It's got a weird mark on the back.
It's got a big long ass. It's a weird looking bug. I'll post a picture on warnerbradley.com. You guys can check it out if you're as fascinated as I was by it. But I saw this thing. I was like, wow, I've never seen one of those before. So I started crouching down to look at this insect. And I got really close. I was kind of watching what it was doing, trying to figure out its whole deal. Then I got my phone out and I was getting really close to try to take pictures of it. And of course, there's people walking by, like wondering what the fuck I'm doing.
Yeah, and now you're taking pictures of the concrete. Now you're just bending over taking pictures of
that's what it looks like to
yeah.
people. Yeah, I'm taking a picture of an R2D2 shaped bollard from very close up. And I guess the homeless people had been witnessing my behavior.
Oh, you're one of the gang now.
Well, they were affronted by my crazy behavior.
Oh, really?
The guy who had been massaging his breasts and going, doo, 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 walked up to me and said, "What are you doing?" And I turned around. I was mid-crouch with my phone poised, trying to take a picture of this insect. It's like, nothing. It's fine. I stood up. It's like, "What were you doing down there?" Nothing.
It's a legitimate question.
Well, yes.
You're not going to answer?
But most people would not approach someone and ask them what they were doing.
No.
Because,
but you're the type of person that always engages with homeless people, so I'm surprised you wouldn't discuss this bug with him.
Well, it was the kind of conversation that would be, I would get too far into it, basically. Like, look, there's a bug there. And then I would have to describe, I don't know. It was I just didn't want to deal with it. And I also had aphids on me still. I just wanted him to go away so I could commence wiping them off of me. And so I'm like, nothing. I was just taking a picture. What were you taking a picture of? Like, nothing. It's not a big deal. It's like, and then he walked over to his friends and started like pointing at me and discussing, I guess, my odd behavior. They all three came up and they started looking at the bollard as well. Okay. Like, what were you doing? Yeah. Like, nothing. It's no big deal. I'm not doing anything. What were you looking at there? Nothing. And they can't see anything, obviously, because you have to be within like a foot of the bollard to see the strange insect. So then for, I don't know, a good 2-3 minutes, I had these three homeless people berating me. Like, why are you looking at nothing? Why are you looking at that thing? What's on that thing? And they were getting really intrigued because they wanted, it was like, it's like when I used to have a dog. I used to pretend to eat something. I would put my hand in my mouth and just make motions with my mouth as though I were chewing, and she would get really interested. It's like, what's going on? Because she could see the behavior, she could see the movement. So anyway, I finally kind of shooed them away. I was like, there's nothing going on, there's nothing going on. And then I decided I would walk away from this area because they were still staring at me and there were still aphids everywhere. Yeah. So I started walking around the block, and as I walked in one direction around the block, I saw them approaching from the other direction. So they had gone from the other side and came around.
To intercept you?
I don't know if they were purposely trying to intercept me, but as I got up to them parallel, the main homeless person was like, "You again? Why are you following us?" And I went, I'm not following you. And I continued walking. Then I went to Rite Aid, got a few things at Rite Aid. Yeah. Exited Rite Aid. 3 homeless people were out there. "Look it's him again. He's following us." Like, I'm not following you. Walked over to the record store, went into the record store, looked around for a little bit, came out, homeless people again. Yeah. "Here he is again. Why does he keep following us? This guy's crazy." And they're all laughing. Other homeless people who always hang out outside the record store noticed this fracas going on. Like, "What's going on? This guy's following us. Why is he following you? I don't know." Turned into this huge, loud discussion of why I was following them and the behavior earlier of me staring at the bollard. Basically, I became
the street freak of the week.
The street freak of the week.
They probably in some alley right now, those 3 guys are sitting around talking into tin cans about that very situation.
I think they have one of those old like white, yellow, and red Fisher-Price tape recorders with a little microphone that would come out. I think they're recording their podcast right now.
And they have a little song they sing before it, and then
they're saying, "Congratulations, skinny white man who's staring at a bollard,
covered in bugs, obsessed with bugs apparently,
and who follows us around for no reason. You've been selected as the street freak of the week."
Wow.
Our hats are off to you, Mr. Homeless Man, because you've been selected as the Warren and Bradley Show Street Freak of the Week.
So something that's been in the news a lot lately, which we have not touched upon on the program, the NSA surveillance program.
Oh, I hear that he took off and went to Russia.
Who?
Snowden.
Oh, Snowden.
Yeah.
Snowden, the former, I guess he was a
contractor at the NSA.
For the NSA who came out whistleblower. Some people say he's a hero. Some people say he's a traitor. Basically tried to reveal the secrets of how the NSA was gathering information on pretty much every fucking person in the United States. Now, we're not going to get too into depth in terms of all the technical details of this story, but Warren, just what feeling does this story give you? What do you think of this? What are your thoughts on this?
I don't have a lot of strong feelings anymore as I get older, but
keep talking about how as you get older, you're not old.
I think he probably committed treason. Mm-hmm. And he should probably, if we get him, we should punish him for that. But I also know that, like, I'm not comfortable with what's been going on as far as the data mining and all that stuff, and the forcing some of the corporations to provide all this information. At the same time, there's a FISA court, and the NSA and the CIA and everyone's doing all these things are reporting to Congress these things that are going on.
The FISA court has not ever denied a request.
Yes, so I mean, it's not, in a sense, it's not like what was going on was completely illegal.
There's several things about this story. Some things that annoy me just about the public's reaction to it. Obviously, some people are irritated by this, but what bothers me are the people who constantly say, no matter whenever these kind of things come up, when the Patriot Act was first passed after September 11th, all these different sort of what I consider invasive measures that the government has taken to supposedly keep people safe. People constantly, this refrain keeps coming again and again and again, where number one, well, I have nothing to hide, so what do I care?
Oh, yeah.
And number two, well, if it keeps us safe, then I don't mind. Fuck you on both those counts. That really pisses me off.
Well, I know the thing that actually occurred to me today as I was walking around. I was walking my friend's dog around trying to get him to poop. And for some reason I was thinking about this. And
how do you get a dog to poop? You just squeeze on his stomach?
Fucking walk it till it finally squeezes that poop out of its ass. And you're like, thank God we can go home now. Just poop, for God's sake. But I was thinking about the fact that there's this weird disconnect. I think it's a disconnect. I think it's sort of a paradox with the people in our country that are obsessed with or the government controlling every aspect of our healthcare and a giant database and having, you know what I mean, having all that paid for by the government. And those same people are very worried about this.
Well, there's a strange thing going on with this because it's almost 50-50 down the middle of Republican Democrats who are angry about this. There's some establishment Republicans who are pissed. There's some who are completely on board, and there are Democrats who are pissed and some who are on board. It seems to be kind of dividing people through the political spectrum. It's not just Democrats on one side, Republicans on the other. What I don't like is, okay, now the NSA is coming out and saying, well, these are all these terrorist attacks that we stopped with this information. How the fuck can we ever prove this? We don't know. How far along were any of these threats? Was it just some, like...
those ones where they're always like, here, we'll give you a missile, you retard.
Yeah.
And then they're like, aha, we got you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, how serious were these threats? And basically they could say anything and we'd have no idea whether or not it were true. Second, my worry, and maybe this is a little paranoid, when they're talking about metadata,
yes,
it's every phone call you make. It's not recording the phone call, but it's showing who you're
numbers
calling, numbers you're calling, emails, keywords, all this shit. This is a giant political war chest, in my opinion. And who knows if anyone will ever actually use it this way, but the potential is there. We've already had the IRS scandal where government employees are going out of their way to persecute people with whom they disagree with politically. What's to stop people from saying, oh, okay, we see that you have called the Republican National Convention or the Democratic National Convention or National Committee, this many times using your cell phone. Obviously, you have some sort of relationship with this. Now we're going to targets of intimidation, targets of, it's information that I don't think the government needs to have. And you might say it's paranoid, but we've already had ample evidence of the government.
I wouldn't say it's paranoid.
Singling people out.
Yeah, I think if the program was going to operate the way they say it's going to operate, or they say it has operated, it'd be fine, right? Because what they're saying they're doing is they're taking all this metadata, and then once they make some sort of connection based on, I don't know, computers do something like, here we go, here's something. Yeah. They go to the FISA court and they get some sort of warrant to look more into it. So it's supposed to and you're not like you and I. The way they say they're working, we're never going to have our names or any information attached to that phone number.
Supposedly,
right?
But what drives me crazy too is if, let's say, you and I were to piss off the government in some way, our frank, open commentary on the Warren and Bradley show pushes the buttons, pisses off the wrong people, and they decide, all right, we're going to go get Warren and Bradley.
Yeah.
Now, no matter how pure as the driven snow you and I may be, if you want to find somebody on something and find something on somebody and you have enough information, you can find it.
Yeah.
Like, who knows what website we might have gone to for, I know you might have gone to a lot of, child pornography websites. Things
I try.
Like that.
I put some cardboard around the back of my computer that I assume protect me.
But it's just this idea that they have all this information, it's locked away, and whenever they need it, they can use it. The other thing that pisses me off is Obama campaigned partially on overturning a lot of the aspects of the Patriot Act. And now that this has come up, he said, well, these programs were in place when President Bush was... Not to this extent, for one thing. They've upped the ante since Obama's been in office. And he said he was going to do away with all this shit. Why doesn't anyone call him on that, for one thing?
Well, you know that he has a certain level of immunity.
He does.
Because of who he is.
It's really weird.
Well, it's weird.
He's not responsible for anything that happens in the country, apparently. All he does is he campaigns against things that his own administration does. It's very strange. Well, it makes no sense to me.
The IRS scandal particularly, right?
Yeah.
If you look at that, you're like, can you imagine... if that had happened during the Bush administration?
Oh, my God, I know.
We'd have an impeachment already.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's just the nature of what's going... I mean, that's the nature of the people that are in the media.
Benghazi during the Bush administration.
It would have been a much bigger deal.
Yes.
And it would have been in the newspapers a lot more. Mm-hmm. And the problem with the IRS thing is, either... his chief of staff and the people in his cabinet were isolating him from the information to protect him and give him plausible deniability, which is him not being responsible and just being some figurehead and not making any decisions, or else he did know and he covered it up. So either one of those options does not sound like he's doing a very good job.
No, and it's also just the climate within the administration, I think. He didn't have to pick up the phone and tell anyone in the IRS to go after these organizations. And the stuff that's coming out now has shown that it did have a major impact on fundraising ability for Republican candidates and things like that, because there was an intimidation factor going on. He didn't have to do that because there was just... It was kind of goes without saying. There was this sort of atmosphere developed within the administration, like, well, we're doing something that we know there's tacit approval for.
It's the same atmosphere that was probably created that you could say
during the Nixon administration.
During the Bush administration.
Or Bush administration.
In regard to how, detainees were handled and maybe some things that were going at Abu Ghraib or things like that.
Yeah.
That you can't maybe trace things directly back to George Bush and him painting in his studio or something. But if there's a certain climate created and you're the guy in charge, people are going to act in that way.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
So... my take on this whole thing is, if you think that the government basically spying on you is okay because it keeps you safe, or because you have nothing to hide, then you're a fucking idiot. I would rather have thousands of people die in terrorist attacks every other week than have the government intrude in this manner into our private lives.
Yeah.
That is my opinion. People think that's weird. People think that's extreme. What is the point of living in a society in which you're safe, but in which you're also...
surveilled
at every opportunity? What is the fucking point? Safety is less important to me. It's much less important to me.
Yeah, safety is less important than freedom and liberty. Yeah, I tend to agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so Warren and Bradley taking a stand for freedom. The Patriots? Jesus. Patriots on the Warren and Bradley
Patriot
show.
Radio. We're going to change the name of the show.
No, we're not.
Oh, how about we just have a network, and we'll call the network Patriot Radio.
Yeah, I think
this is the Patriot Radio Network.
That would draw a lot of audience that I don't think we really want for the Warren and Bradley show.
White supremacists.
All right, so I think that's enough for this week on the Warren and Bradley show. I've been one of your hosts, Patriot Bradley Victor.
I'm your other host, Patriot Warren Van.
Saying...
liberty before safety. Semper Fi.
Semper Fi.
Yeah, why not?
All right.
This has been the Warren and Bradley Show, brought to you by Warren Van and Bradley Victor. For podcast news and information, like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/Warren and Bradley. Follow the show on Twitter at Warren and Brad. Subscribe on iTunes and leave a review. For episode archives and episode pictures, go to warrenandbradley.com, and to contact the show, write to podcast@warrenandbradley.com.